What could be done to prevent mass shootings? Paying attention and actually doing something when there's a threat. Just look at the shooting by the 6-year-old a few weeks ago. His teacher, the victim, has retained a lawyer because there were multiple times that day where the kid was reported to have a gun and administration just kept blowing it up. There were half a dozen times just that day that the incident could have been prevented, not to mention all the red flags on previous day. She had requested help multiple times. He had previously said he wanted to light her on fire and watch her die. A parent normally sat through classes with him, but wasn't there that day. He was habitually a problem in class, and she requested help for him pretty much weekly. So it's not like all of a sudden that they got a warning about a kid that had never had any issues before. Reverse the Reagan-era policies that closed most of the state, run mental health treatment facilities. My family had a crisis with my brother last year and me, and my father spent all day calling facilities all over Texas. The soonest anyone could get him in was 7 months. That isn't just a thing in America. The same happened at the same time in Australia. Just close them and the problem disappears, right? Wrong. It morphs into emergency room violence, community violence, DV, homelessness. Sorts by controversial. That is right. The solution was there all along. Cut spending on education to give billionaires tax breaks. Great job, everyone. The system is working. Always do this in any political discussion. Reddit top circle jerk is usually the dumbest, most wrong answer. A lot of these mass shooters aren't just coming out of nowhere. According to this study, a solid majority of mass shooting were part of domestic violence, or the shooters had a history of domestic violence. Not going to spend all night digging into this, but I wouldn't be surprised if mass shooters are likely to have history of other violent or otherwise antisocial stalking, for example, crimes and behavior. Mass shooting isn't generally the start. It's an escalation, and I think it's a pretty good indication that we really need to handle domestic violence and other such crimes a lot better, if not for how fucked up it already is, than to stop it from escalating into something worse. I remember reading somewhere that DV calls are the ones cops hate the most, as it's the call they are most likely to get shot at. There definitely is a pattern. I generally read a lot about each case, and nearly all of the shooters have been on the radar of their local police. A majority have also been reported to the FBI, with most investigations amounting to just going through the motion. It's really depressing when you learn that many of them were actually already ineligible to buy guns under existing laws due to things on their record such as domestic violence. But since local governments, states, mental health institutions, etc. are so bad at sharing information, the FBI approved the background check anyway. No one has ever held anyone accountable for this. It rarely even appears in the news coverage. Meanwhile, to those of us that know how the current system actually works, it's painfully clear that we could have prevented several of these shootings by just following the laws that are already on the books today. There was a Waffle House shooting a while ago that spurred a study about the gun ownership of shooters. And in the majority of cases involving shootings, the only reason they had a gun was due to a judgment lapse of law enforcement, or law enforcement not removing the gun when they should legally have taken it away. That 6-year-old that had a gun everyone knew about. I didn't do anything about the Waffle House specific one. Literally had the sheriff handing the gun back saying that he's not a threat, when the law said he couldn't have a gun. Which begs the question, why add more useless legislation? As with most everything, the problem is vastly more complex than the media makes it out to be. As a teacher, it starts with kids needing love and care at home, which leads to people having their basic Maslow needs met so they aren't constantly struggling. And mental health needs to become a priority instead of something we mostly ignore in the youth. Kids and adults seek power and a sense of control through a gun because it's missing in the rest of their life. Many of these mass shootings are angry suicides. James Densley, professor of criminal justice at Minnesota's Metropolitan State University, told me 4 years ago. And now there's even more evidence to suggest that's true. It isn't news that a lot of mass shooters suffer from suicidal ideation, said James Langford, a professor of criminology at the University of Alabama. But it wasn't until he published a 2021 study comparing mass shooters to other demographic groups that he truly realized just how much more mass shooters had in common with people who die by suicide than they did with other kinds of homicide offenders. TEPS 538 features suicide. prevention could prevent mass shooting. I wish this was higher. You are directly addressing the cultural aspects that need addressing in America. There is a term that is very relevant. A country that doesn't protect its youth is doomed. I feel it really does apply here. Domestic violence laws that actually do something. 60 of mass shooters have passed DV issues. But if you look at the DV numbers in cops, then you'll start to really see the problem. And healthcare for everyone. Actually enforce domestic violence charges. My sister was abused for years. The sheriffs came so many times. The guy even admitted to hitting her in the back of the head to hide bruises. Never went anywhere because my sister couldn't bring herself to press charges. She's dead at 32. Everyone knows he's responsible, but I doubt he'll get charged. Make therapy more easily accessible for people who are middle or lower class. And actually take mental health and bullying seriously, instead of falsely advocating for it and brushing it off when people need serious mental help. Edit. I've accidentally left out another point I meant to make. I thought I'd share it upon remembering it. Recognize signs when someone is going to be a threat to themselves or other people and do something about it. It's important to note when someone is planning to hurt themselves or other people. My favorite is when the kid getting bullied gets in trouble too. What do other countries that don't have them do? Americans make up about 4.4% of the global population, but own 42% of the world's guns. Edit. Top 10 countries with highest gun ownership, civilian guns owned per 100 people. United States, 120.5 Falkland Islands, 62.1 Yemen, 52.1 Yemen, 52.5 Serbia, 32.5 Serbia, 39.1 Timor, 39.1 4.7 Thai. Social safety nets, less prison industrial complex, less school to prison pipeline, less glorification, and less strength of the military. Healthcare for all, paid parental leave, high minimum number of vacation days per year, heavily restricted gun access, smaller class sizes, fewer after school activities, more intergenerational households, etc. Now choose the causative factor. The problem is, and this is coming from a Brit, not an American, we never let people have guns en masse. At this point, there are so many guns in America that even if you took away people's right to them, could you really enforce it? If people wanted to get one illegally, edit. I'm just adding, I absolutely think America should have way stricter gun laws, if not just outright banning them. But I just wonder if it would make a difference or how many years it would take to make a difference. People need to have real, honest conversations with their loved ones and friends when the red flags go flying. Many of these shootings are not random, and the warning signs were present. Help that woman escape her abuser. Tell your brother to grow the fuck up and stop being abusive. Take your son's firearms when you know they are an abusive alcoholic, etc. Most of these people don't live in isolation, and people turn a blind eye because they feel it's not their problem or place to feel it's not their problem or place to insert themselves. Be brave and speak up. It could save someone's life. Put Elsd in the drinking water. Found the sire's altar cunt. Make getting shot illegal. So if I get shot, I get charged. Stop turning shooters into celebrities in the media. Edit. Some people are confused. 1. Not making them celebrities doesn't mean talking about mass shootings, just not plastering their names and faces everywhere. 2. I'm British. I don't know what's best for Americans as well as they do. But here's some thoughts I don't think you can copy. Paste UCAP policy to the US. It's like changing someone's intrinsic identity. Take Iran, for example. One of the lowest alcohol mortality rates. Imagine an Iranian saying to a British person, "Why don't you just ban alcohol? It causes so much death. We banned it, and our rate of mortality due to alcohol is one of the lowest in the world." You'd say something like, "Why should I give up something I enjoy and is part of my culture? Because a few bad apples take it too far." From talking to them, Americans view guns the same way. Why does someone else doing wrong with guns have any bearing on me who's just using it for fun protection? I'd say a mix is gun regulations and mental health support, and not making martyrs of shooters has the best chance. Psychologists keep telling us this, and media vultures keep ignoring them. Better social safety nets, mental health help. No one gets shot if no one wants to shoot anyone. Give everyone small personal nukes. How do you stop a bad guy with a gun? Nukes. Take mental health care and bullying seriously. You'd be surprised how few shooters were bullied. Domestic violence is way stronger an indicator of someone likely to do mass violence. A lot of the time, it's the bullies, not the bullied. Thank goodness we don't have an easy-to-get career with an excessive amount of domestic abusers that gives out government-issued guns. People suffering from mental health problems are more likely to be victims of gun violence, suicide, than perpetrators. Previous violence is the only predictor for future violence. Limited access to guns is the most effective way. TEPS, UW, National, organ deaths, violence, and mental health edit. Not saying mental health is irrelevant, as 60 of firearm deaths are suicide by mentally ill individuals. Deaths like 0.2 of firearm deaths from mass shootings. But in regards to mass shootings, the question in the post, effects of mental health are limited. Edit 2, reformat clarification. This is bullshit. Do Americans here really believe that other first world countries have somehow solved mental illness and bullying? Don't get me wrong, I wish we could take mental illnesses more seriously, but the difference is simply that when you grow in a country where guns are so rare that you may never see one outside of hunting rifles and cop weapons, you do not even think about shooting a school, and even if you do, the hurdles you have to go through to procure a weapon will stop you in your tracks. Deal with the mental health issues and treat all people as valued parts of society and support them when they need it. When people are under threat of losing their rights to privacy, self-defense, and the ability to make a living if they seek help, they don't seek that help. We need to stop destroying the lives of those trying to correct theirs. These things do not save anyone, they just destroy. Shut down the news stations and pundits, which are drumming up mentally ill people into thinking they're in a fight for your life scenario, which justifies mass murder to them. There's no quick answer, in part because mass shootings combine many different underlying issues. For instance, the vast majority of mass shootings are related to organized crime, i.e. gangs and or the drug trade. Thus, to reduce mass shootings, we should first look at our drug prohibition laws. If we are talking about high-profile mass shootings, our problem in the USA relates to several overlapping issues. It is relatively easy to acquire a firearm. The legal mechanisms to deny a high-risk person firearms are very limited. Every country produces a small percentage of deeply problematic people. Ours is unique in arming them. American culture around firearms is deeply problematic. Other heavily armed wealthy nations, like the commonly compared Switzerland, make the use of firearms a responsibility of being a good citizen. American culture all too often celebrates firearms as an extra, legal tool for imposing your will. The modern world is a lonely world. People spend much more time alone now. This gets far beyond the scope of this reply, but many of our traditional social organizations have failed to adapt to the modern world. Young people are increasingly left without a community or direction. This amplifies the above issues. Combined, these speak to mass shootings as a consequence of low social cohesion on a legal, cultural, and institutional level. Addressing that is multi-generational work. Be nicer to everyone. People keep talking about mental health as if it's all just depression or schizophrenia or bipolar. It's not. Those are just symptoms of a larger collective of problems. It's the culmination of a two-party capitalist society that created the myth of the American dream. It's stress from working too much and getting paid too little, from hyper-partisan politics making every conversation a battle. It's social media and mainstream media and the mind-numbing stream of negative information. It's misinformation. It's fear of being shot by someone else with a gun. It's racism, sexism, and every other kind of superiority, complex filled with hate. It's fear that I will take your job, fear of medical bills bankrupting you, and so much more. People say mental health is the problem, as if a doctor could solve everything that's wrong with the US in the first place. In the UK, the general public doesn't have easy access to guns. The last mass shooting was in 2010, and there have been 4 mass shootings in total in the past 35 years. 1987, Hungerford Massacre, 31 people were shot, 16 fatal. 1989, Monk Seton shootings, 15 people were shot, 1 fatality. 1996, Dunblane Massacre, 32 shot, 16 fatalities, 15 of the dead were young children. 2010, Cumbria shootings, 23 shoot, 12 fatalities. In the USA, it seems to me that it's not your average criminals who may more easily get their hands on a gun that carry out these atrocities. It is someone in the general public that snaps. It seems such a simple solution to stops. It seems such a simple solution to stop allowing the general public to buy a gun. In Switzerland, virtually everyone has a gun. They get to keep one after they finish mandatory military service. And to my best knowledge, there's never been any mass shooting ever, and violent crime is one of the lowest in the world. I think it's more cultural thing rather than gun laws edit. All right, some scum shot 4 people in 2013, and there was also one in 1993. But I think point stays valid. Stop allowing everyone to buy guns. Scary. This isn't top comment. It's the best answer, but I think everyone is just resigned to the notion that this will never happen in America. Very scary indeed. If Sandy Hook couldn't change the minds of people, I genuinely don't believe anything ever will. This is just something Americans are going to have to live with, every town. This one gets to the root of the problem. You can talk about mental health till you're blue in the face, and you should, but our core issue is guns. It's not just the access, it's the fetishization and worship of them. People replace their family car stickers with guns, hang signage informing you how excited they are to murder you for trespassing, and spend all of these debates gleefully playing out how they'll be the Old West gunslinger hero if anyone dares to mess with them. They love the phrase good guy with a gun, not realizing that they're unironically inviting bad guys with guns to challenge them. At least I hope they don't realize it. And this is why mental health is only a band-aid. As long as people make guns their identity and religion, the mentally unwell people who fall through the cracks will have that option in their minds. It's just so ubiquitous. Look at how many law-abiding citizens turn right to the common ticket bullshit when we talk about changing the law. Guns mean you only obey the laws that are convenient to you, and that's not a good message for people who are broken.